should be remembered that they fall into three categories. A. The individual tiny lives which we call the atoms, or cells of the body. These exist in three groups and compose respectively the four types of bodies: dense physical, etheric, astral and mental. B. The aggregate of these lives which constitute in themselves four types of elementals, or separate coherent, though not self-conscious, existences. These four lunar lords constitute what the ageless wisdom teaching calls the four sides of the square. They are the lower quaternary, the imprisoning cubes, or the cross upon which the inner spiritual man is to be crucified. These four elementals have an intelligence all their own, are upon the involutionary arc, are following the law of their own being, when they tend to become powerful, and thereby fully express that which is in them. See a dominant, controlling lunar lord who is that which we understand by the term the lower personality. He, if the personal pronoun can be used, is the sum total of the physical, astral and mental elementals, and it is this power which at present forces the fiery energies of the body to feed the lower three centers. The etheric body has a unique and curious position, being simply the vehicle for prana or life, and the center which it uses exists in a category by itself. 3. All subhuman forms in their aggregate prove a powerful deterrent factor in the progress towards emancipation of the real man. They form the opposite to what we understand by the world of the master, and the two are in direct opposition to each other from the standpoint of the aspirant. The adept can enter the world of form, can contact it, work in it and remain unaffected by it because there is nothing in him to respond to it. He sees through the illusion to the reality behind, and, knowing where he stands himself, there is not in the appeal and the demand of these lunar lords to attract him. He stands midway between the pairs of opposites. In the realization of the nature of this world of form, in the comprehension of the lives which compose it, and in an ability to hear the voice of the formless one, above the strife of all the lower voices, comes the opportunity for the aspirant to escape from the dominance of matter. This is the true magical work, my brothers, the understanding of the sounds of all beings, and the ability to speak the language of the soul is the clue to the work. These faculties rightly used impose upon these lesser lives that control which will lead to the final liberation, and which will in due time, lead these lives themselves into the realm of self-consciousness. This aspect of the matter is as yet but little comprehended by the sons of men. If they but realize that by a disposition to fall under lunar control they drive the tiny lives in their little system deeper into the darkness of ignorance, they might more rapidly assume their just responsibilities. If they realize that by the constant attempt to impose the rhythm of the solar lord upon the aggregate of the lunar lords, they were driving these lives onward to self-conscious unfoldment, they might proceed more earnestly and more intelligently. This is the message that must go forth, for all the varying aspects of the life of God are interdependent, and not one proceeds onward into fuller realization without benefiting the entire group. A few simple suggestions I will give you. These can be useful to all sincere aspirants. In the ordered regulation of the life comes eventual synthesis and the right control of time with all that eventuates therefrom. In the right elimination of that which is secondary, and in the sense of rightly adjusted proportion comes that accuracy and one-pointedness which is the hallmark of the occultist. In the right aspiration at the appointed time comes the necessary contact and the inspiration for the work that has to be done. In the steady adherence to self-appointed rules comes the gradual refining of the instrument, and the perfecting of the vehicles that will be to the master the medium of help among many little ones. I commend the above thought to you, knowing that you will apprehend the implications, and will seriously consider the purport of my remarks. The world today is in the throes of agony. Just as in the evolving ego, the moment of greatest development is oft the moment of greatest pain, if apprehension measure up to opportunity, so in the evolving world. To those of you who have the inner sight and intuitive comprehension comes the opportunity to aid that apprehension and to lead a despairing world deep cast into darkness and distress one step nearer to the light. The work you have to do is to take the knowledge which is yours and adjust its application to the world's needs so that recognition of the truth may be rapid. In the heart of every man lies hid the flower of the intuition. On that you can depend, and no eternal or cosmic fact clothed in a suitable form will fail to receive its meed of recognition and understanding. Introductory statement: I have called you from refreshment to labor at this time, October 1942, because the coming few days are exceedingly busy ones for me as they are for all members of the hierarchy. I seek to give you some further instructions and the hierarchy itself. 1. Discipleship in the New Age, Volume I, pp. 671-773. Asterisk: students at this time would do well to remember that all basic and fundamental changes taking place upon the physical plane are necessarily the result of inner subjective causes, emanating from some level of the divine consciousness, and therefore from some plane other than the physical. The fact that tremendous and unusual upheavals are taking place in the kingdoms of nature is attributed by men to other men or to certain forces generated by human thinking, frailty and ambition. Is it not possible that these changes are being brought about as the result of certain profoundly important happenings upon inner planes of such advanced states of consciousness that all the average disciple can know about them is their word symbols, and their much deleted effects, if I may use such a phrase, to describe the happenings which are rending humanity today? The evil that is being wrought today on earth, by certain evil members of the human family, are effects of their response to the inflaming energies and indicate their basic wickedness and their prompt reaction to that which is counter to the good. Wherever the consciousness is focused, there is the point of major emphasis and importance, and this is true of the individual man and of humanity as a whole. The significance of the present happenings is interpreted, and necessarily so, in terms of human awareness and responsiveness. This world war and its inevitable consequences, good and bad, are looked upon as concerned primarily with humanity, whereas that is not basically so. Humanity suffers and experiences as a result of the inner occurrences, and the meeting of subjective forces, and inflaming energies. It is of course not possible for me to give you any true picture of the interior events and happenings in the life of our planetary being. I can only indicate and point out that the world situation is simply an embodiment of the reaction and the response by mankind to great paralleling and originating happenings which involve the following groups. 1. The emanating avatar and his relationship to the Lord of the world, our planetary logos. 2. The Lords of Liberation, focused in their high place, as they become conscious of the invocation of humanity and become more closely related to the three Buddhas of activity. 3. The Great Council at Shambhala, and the planetary hierarchy. 4. The Buddha and his arhats as they unitedly cooperate with the Christ and his disciples, the masters of the wisdom. 5. The hierarchy, the embodiment of the fifth kingdom in nature, and its magnetic attractive rapport with the human kingdom, the fourth. 6. The effect of all these great groups of lives upon humanity, and the inherent consequences as they work out in the subhuman kingdoms. A study of the above in terms of forces and energy will give some idea of the underlying synthesis of relationships, and the unity of the whole. There is therefore a line of descending energy, which has its origin outside our planetary life altogether. The inflow of this energy, its inevitable effect under cyclic law, and its consequences, as they work out upon the physical plane, has produced and is producing all the changes of which mankind is so terribly aware at this time. This swings into immediate conflict the past and the future, and in this statement I have expressed the deepest esoteric truth which mankind is competent to grasp. It brings into a culminating struggle the Great White Lodge and the Black Lodge, and opens the door to great contending energies which we can call spirit and matter, spirituality and materialism, or life and death. These words are, in the last analysis, as meaningless as the terms good and evil, which have significance only in the human consciousness and its inherent limitations. These descending energies, as they pass through any of the major levels of consciousness which we call planes, produce reactions and responses, dependent upon the state of the conditioning consciousness, and, strange as this may seem to you and well nigh unintelligible, the effects upon the hierarchy are even more compelling and transmuting than they are upon humanity. I would add also that the point of lowest descent of the energies has now been reached, and the nature of the present opportunity is therefore changing. These energies have now passed what we might call the turning point and have reached their point of ascension, with all that that phrase implies. As they descend, they produce stimulation. As they ascend, they produce transmutation and abstraction, and the one effect is as unalterable as the other. It is upon this inevitability of the ascending energies, and the effects, which they will bring about, that the entire hope of the future depends. Nothing can arrest their return or their progress through the planes, and back again to their source. Upon this dual process of descent and ascension the whole cyclic panorama of manifestation rests, and upon the inflow and activity of new and higher energies the whole fact of the evolutionary process depends. It will therefore be apparent to you that the descent of energy brings with it under the cyclic law certain new inspirations, certain new seeds of hope for the future, and certain active agents as well, who are and will be responsible for the task of preparation, of fertilization and of all the coming new age enterprises. These descending energies evoke also the obstructing forces, and I would here remind you that these obstructing evil forces, so called, are met with upon the highest spiritual levels because they are in their turn evoked by the impelling impact of the coming avatar whose note is heard ahead of him, and his energy spreads before him. This is a great mystery and can only be understood, and then merely theoretically, if you bear in mind that all our planes, even the very highest, are the subplanes of the cosmic physical plane. When this fact is somewhat grasped, there comes a simplification of thought. As a consequence of all this, great and fundamental readjustments are going on within the hierarchy itself and within that intervening area of the divine consciousness to which we give the name, as far as humanity is concerned, of the spiritual triad, an area covered by the higher mental planes, the buddhic and the atmic levels of awareness and of divine activity. The downpouring avateric stimulation is enabling certain of the masters to take some of the major initiations, and to do so far earlier than would otherwise have been possible. Thus a great process of ascension and of spiritual attainment is underway, though as yet only its faint beginnings can be traced, owing to the intensity of the point of conflict. Hence also many probationary disciples are finding their way into the ranks of accepted disciples, and many disciples are taking initiation. To this fact of hierarchical